Did you ever believe that Hollywood's most famous stars always delivered unforgettable performances for all the right reasons? Behind the bright lights and glamorous premieres lies a long history of acting moments that fans still discuss, but not with admiration. These performances became legendary not for their brilliance, but for how shockingly out of place, awkward, or downright odd they felt on screen. Today, we're diving into 24 acting disasters that audiences never managed to forgive. From awkward accents to roles that destroyed reputations, we'll uncover the jaw-dropping moments when Hollywood's finest fell completely flat. Buckle up and get ready to relive some of cinema's most surprising missteps. Comic relief that aged terribly. Sometimes, a single character can change the way people view an entire movie. In one of Hollywood's most famous romantic comedies, audiences were left speechless, but not for the right reasons. This wasn't just a performance that missed the mark. It became a textbook example of how outdated portrayals can damage a film's legacy for generations. In Breakfast at Tiffany's, the character of Mr. Yunioshi was meant to be a quirky upstairs neighbor, providing lighthearted comic relief. However, viewers instead encountered a jarring caricature that felt painfully awkward, even at the time of release. The role was played by Mickey Rooney, who was once celebrated as a youthful Hollywood favorite. Covered in heavy makeup, exaggerated features, and an over-the-top accent, Rooney's portrayal quickly shifted from intended comedy to uncomfortable spectacle. Critics of the era were mixed, but modern audiences have been far less forgiving. With each passing decade, the backlash only grew louder. Television reruns, film studies courses, and countless social media discussions have turned this performance into one of the most infamous cautionary tales in cinema history. Rooney himself later expressed regret, admitting he was shocked by the ongoing criticism, especially as fans continued to mention it to him personally. Today, Breakfast at Tiffany's remains a widely discussed film, but many viewers choose to skip or mute the scenes featuring Mr. Yunioshi. Streaming services have added warnings, and the character is regularly cited in articles and videos highlighting Hollywood's most uncomfortable moments. What was supposed to be harmless comic relief ended up becoming a permanent reminder of how even classic films can stumble in ways that audiences never forget. A cowboy legend lost in the wrong role. It's astonishing how quickly an actor's powerful image can unravel when cast in a role that defies logic. Fans who adored rugged Western heroes were in for a shock when one of America's most celebrated figures stepped into a part that left everyone scratching their heads. In The Conqueror, John Wayne took on the role of Genghis Khan, a decision that has gone down in history as one of the most baffling casting choices ever made. Known for his cowboy swagger and distinctive American drawl, Wayne found himself speaking stiff while dressed in elaborate Mongolian robes. His trademark mannerisms, so beloved in frontier films, clashed awkwardly with the historical setting, creating a performance that felt disjointed from the very first scene. Critics at the time were brutal, and audiences didn't hold back their disappointment. Viewers who expected a gripping epic were met with unintentionally funny dialogue, confused pacing, and an overall sense of cultural misfit. To make matters worse, the film's shooting location became the subject of tragic rumors in later years, further darkening its reputation. Today, The Conqueror is regularly referenced in discussions about Hollywood's biggest mistakes. Clips of Wayne delivering lines as a medieval warlord continue to circulate on social media, often accompanied by sarcastic commentary and disbelief. What was intended as a grand historical adventure ended up as a cautionary tale of how even the most respected stars can stumble when miscasting, studio ambition, and poor judgment collide. The accent that launched 1,000 jokes. Few performances have become as widely mocked as one particular portrayal of a cheerful chimney sweep. Viewers were charmed by the movie's story and music, but when it came to one character's accent, audiences could not believe their ears. And the jokes have never stopped. In Mary Poppins, Dick Van Dyke played the lovable Bert, a jack-of-all-trades with a heart of gold, while his energetic dancing and good-natured smile delighted children and adults alike. His attempt at a Cockney accent became one of the most famously off-the-mark choices in movie history. The inconsistent tone, unpredictable vowel shifts, and strange rhythm left British audiences cringing, while American fans were simply confused by the odd sounds. Despite the film's enormous success, critics and language experts repeatedly singled out Van Dyke's vocal performance as a distracting misstep. Even co-stars admitted in interviews that they felt secondhand embarrassment listening to his exaggerated phrases. Over time, Van Dyke took the criticism with good humor, openly joking about his accent and revealing that his dialect coach wasn't even from England. Today, the role of Bert remains iconic for both good and bad reasons. Mary Poppins continues to enchant new generations, but the awkward Cockney accent is often discussed in reaction videos, comedy sketches, and online compilations. The film proves that charm can overcome flaws, but Bert's lines serve as a lasting reminder that sometimes even the most beloved characters can carry an unforgettable mistake. A master actor buried under heavy makeup. Audiences often expect greatness when they see a world-renowned actor take on a challenging role. But in this particular case, what was meant to be a bold, dramatic portrayal turned into a performance that many now find uncomfortable and outdated. In Othello, Laurence Olivier stepped into the role of the famous Shakespearean character, but his approach raised eyebrows both then and especially now. Instead of letting his natural skills shine, Olivier covered himself in dark makeup, changed his voice to a low, growling tone, and exaggerated his mannerisms in a way that many viewers later described as distracting and unnatural. His carefully practiced stage techniques, which worked well in classic theater, felt forced and awkward on the big screen. At the time of release, some critics praised Olivier's dedication, but others questioned the effectiveness of the performance. Over the years, the reaction shifted dramatically. Modern audiences often find the portrayal hard to watch, with many agreeing that the visual choices overshadowed the emotional depth of the character. Even film historians have noted that Olivier's intense physical transformation did not make up for the lack of genuine connection with the role. Today, Othello is studied more as an example of outdated Hollywood practices than as a shining moment of cinematic brilliance. Social media clips and online discussions regularly feature scenes from this film, often highlighting the awkward delivery and overwhelming makeup. This performance remains a reminder that even the most celebrated talents can falter when artistic ambition is not balanced with authenticity. A serious actor stuck in a comedy misfire. When a performer known for dramatic power attempts to lighten the mood with comedy, the result can either be delightful or downright disastrous. In this particular film, a respected actor traded intense roles for an exaggerated disguise, but the gamble failed to impress both critics and audiences. In Touch of Evil, Charlton Heston portrayed Ramon Vargas, a Mexican narcotics officer. Best known for portraying heroic figures with commanding presence, Heston's attempt to transform for this noir thriller was instantly met with confusion. Heavy makeup and a forced accent made the character feel less authentic, and more like a clumsy impersonation. Instead of blending seamlessly into the film's gripping narrative, Heston stood out awkwardly, delivering lines in a way that seemed unnatural and at times distracting. While the movie itself is praised for its stylish direction and dark atmosphere, Heston's portrayal has aged poorly. Contemporary critics tend to overlook his role in favor of the film's technical achievements, while modern audiences frequently point out how miscasting pulled them out of key scenes. Clips from the movie often make the rounds on social media, with viewers questioning how such a talented actor could seem so out of place. Even among Heston's many iconic performances, this role remains a blemish on his career. Touch of Evil is remembered as a masterpiece of visual storytelling, but Heston's character reminds viewers that not every casting decision withstands the test of time. His performance has become a go-to example of how misjudged roles can leave even accomplished actors struggling to connect with the audience. A tough guy singing in the wrong genre. Audiences love a good musical, but when a performer known for stoic roles suddenly breaks into song, it can leave viewers feeling more confused than entertained. This performance became one of the most notorious examples of an actor stepping far outside his comfort zone, with awkward results. In Paint Your Wagon, Clint Eastwood traded in his usual silent, steely demeanor for musical numbers and dance routines. Famous for his iconic Western characters, who spoke few words but carried tremendous presence, Eastwood suddenly found himself singing ballads and performing in group musical scenes. The transition was anything but smooth. His low, gravelly voice struggled to carry tunes, and his stiff body language made choreography look forced rather than natural. Moviegoers who expected a rugged cowboy tale were met with an unexpectedly light-hearted tone and long musical sequences that felt out of place. Critics quickly pointed out the mismatch, and Eastwood himself later admitted he only accepted the role for the paycheck. Despite the film's high budget and big ambitions, it failed to resonate with audiences, who couldn't quite get used to seeing their favorite action star crooning about love and dreams. Today, Paint Your Wagon is often referenced in comedy shows and internet memes as a classic case of miscasting. Clips of Eastwood singing circulate regularly, accompanied by humorous commentary about the strange career detour. While Eastwood went on to reclaim his tough guy image in later films, this musical remains a reminder that not every actor is meant to tackle every genre, especially when it involves singing. The King of Rock lost in a movie disaster. Some stars shine brightest on stage but struggle when placed in the wrong film setting. This particular role is often remembered as the low point in an otherwise dazzling career, where charm and talent could not overcome a poor script and awkward direction. In Harem Scarum, Elvis Presley found himself far removed from his electrifying concert performances, instead playing a singer caught up in a far-fetched Middle Eastern adventure. Dressed in extravagant costumes and surrounded by ornate sets, Elvis appeared distant and disengaged, delivering his lines in a flat, almost mechanical tone. The film tried to combine action, comedy, and musical numbers, but the result was a confusing blend that never quite found its rhythm. Fans who adored Elvis's dynamic energy on stage were disappointed by his subdued presence on screen. Critics noted how his signature charisma seemed drained, replaced by awkward movements and uninspired performances. The musical scenes, which should have been a highlight, felt out of place and lacked the spark of his earlier films. Over time, Harem Scarum earned a reputation as one of Elvis's worst movies. It is frequently featured in compilations of awkward performances, and has become a popular reference point for discussing career missteps. Even loyal fans often skip this title, acknowledging that the King's natural talents were overshadowed by a poorly conceived production. Decades later, this movie remains a reminder that even legendary performers are not immune to cinematic disasters. A golden voice trapped in a swashbuckling flop. There are times when even the most famous voices cannot rescue a poorly written role. Audiences who admired smooth, confident performers were caught off guard by this particular film, where a beloved entertainer appeared out of his element in every scene. In The Kissing Bandit, Frank Sinatra swapped his microphone for a sword, taking on the role of a romantic swashbuckler. However, instead of delivering charm and adventure, his performance felt stiff and unconvincing. Known for his effortless charisma in music, Sinatra seemed uncomfortable with the exaggerated theatrics required for the part. His line delivery alternated between half-hearted speech and awkward, almost sung dialogue, leaving viewers unsure whether to laugh or cringe. The action scenes lacked excitement. The romantic moments felt forced, and Sinatra's usual magnetic presence seemed to vanish beneath the weight of the film's confused tone. Critics were quick to point out the disconnect between Sinatra's natural style and the role's unrealistic demands, with some describing the performance as wooden and uninspired. Decades later, The Kissing Bandit is remembered more for its missteps than its storyline. Fans who admire Sinatra's musical talents often skip this film, admitting it fails to capture the essence that made him a star. Online discussions frequently highlight clips from the movie as examples of career misfires, reinforcing the idea that even the smoothest performers can stumble when placed in the wrong cinematic world. A legendary secret agent in a sci-fi oddity. Fans who admired a certain debonair secret agent were left stunned when one of cinema's smoothest stars appeared in a science fiction movie that defied all expectations. Instead of the usual charm and sophistication, audiences witnessed a performance that felt bizarre from start to finish. In Zardoz, Sean Connery stepped far away from his polished spy persona to portray a character caught in a strange futuristic world. Wearing an unforgettable and often ridiculed costume of red straps and knee-high boots, Connery's appearance became the first shock for viewers. The confusion only deepened with the film's surreal storyline and philosophical dialogue that felt awkward rather than profound. Connery, known for delivering confident and sharp performances, seemed visibly uncomfortable navigating the film's chaotic scenes. His interactions often lacked the natural ease fans were used to, and many moments came across as unintentionally humorous. Critics questioned the movie's confusing narrative and pointed out how Connery appeared misplaced in such an unconventional setting. Today, Zardoz has gained a cult following, but much of its fame comes from how unusual and puzzling it is. Scenes featuring Connery in his eccentric outfit continue to circulate online, accompanied by laughter and disbelief. For many, this film remains a curious footnote in an otherwise illustrious career, proving that even the most iconic stars can get lost in the wild world of science fiction experiments. A horror icon's final film misstep. It's always difficult to watch a once celebrated performer take part in a project that feels far beneath their talent. In this case, a legendary figure in horror cinema became part of a production that many regard as one of the most awkward film experiences ever made. In Plan 9 from Outer Space, Bela Lugosi appeared in what would be his final movie project. Famous for his chilling portrayal of Dracula, Lugosi's final appearance was marked by unusual circumstances. He filmed only a few brief scenes before his passing, and the rest of the film used a much taller stand-in, who awkwardly concealed his face behind a cape. The result was a jarring mixture of authentic Lugosi footage and poorly disguised impersonations. The film itself was plagued by a nonsensical plot, low-budget special effects, and wooden acting across the board. Lugosi's limited footage felt disconnected from the rest of the story, and the forced inclusion of the stand-in made scenes feel unintentionally comedic rather than spooky. Critics at the time were harsh, and over the years, Plan 9 from Outer Space developed a reputation as one of the most famously bad films in history. Today, movie fans often revisit Plan 9 for its unintentional humor, but many feel sadness seeing Lugosi's career end on such a confusing and poorly executed note. The movie is widely cited in discussions about film industry missteps, and Lugosi's final role remains a bittersweet reminder of how even legendary talents can find themselves attached to projects that fail to honor their legacy. A serious actor lost in a passionless role. Some performances suffer not because of excessive theatrics, but because of a surprising lack of energy. This particular portrayal, expected to be intense and gripping, ended up feeling flat and uninspired, leaving audiences disappointed. In The Fountainhead, Gary Cooper took on the role of Howard Rourke, an architect driven by ambition and idealism. Known for his calm, understated style, Cooper was an unusual choice for a character known for fiery passion and relentless determination. His natural reserved manner clashed with the script's grand philosophical speeches, resulting in a delivery that felt monotone and detached. Critics were quick to point out the disconnect. Instead of stirring the audience with conviction, Cooper's performance often made key scenes feel hollow and lifeless. The movie's heavy dialogue, combined with Cooper's slow and emotionless tone, turned intense moments into long, drawn-out speeches that struggled to hold attention. Over the years, The Fountainhead has become a reference point for miscasting, especially when an actor's usual strengths don't align with the role's demands. Film historians and fans alike continue to discuss how the movie could have been more powerful with a different lead. Today, the film is frequently used as an example of how even talented stars can struggle when placed in parts that fail to match their natural screen presence. A legendary star who missed the fire. When a character is driven by obsession, audiences expect to see raw emotions and intensity. Yet, in this particular film adaptation, the lead performance felt strangely muted, robbing a classic story of its emotional power. In Moby Dick, Gregory Peck took on the role of Captain Ahab, the vengeful seafarer consumed by his pursuit of the great white whale. Known for his calm authority and noble presence, Peck seemed misaligned with the feverish mania the character required. His delivery, often soft-spoken and restrained, clashed with the script's intense themes of obsession and revenge. Critics at the time were divided. While some praised the film's direction and visuals, many noted that Peck's Ahab lacked the frightening energy and unpredictable fury that made the literary character so iconic. Audiences expecting to see a man driven to the brink of madness instead found a subdued figure who appeared more contemplative than consumed. Over time, Moby Dick has remained a respected adaptation, but Peck's performance is frequently cited as a misfire. Discussions about the film often highlight how a different acting approach could have brought more life to Ahab's descent into obsession. For fans of classic literature and cinema alike, this portrayal serves as a reminder that even the most acclaimed actors can struggle when their natural style clashes with the role's deeper demands. A lifeless lead in a lavish epic. Big-budget historical dramas are designed to dazzle audiences with grand visuals and stirring performances. But sometimes the scale of a movie can't make up for a lead actor's lack of energy. In this case, a sweeping epic was let down by a central performance that failed to capture the emotional weight of the story. In Quo Vadis, Robert Taylor starred as Marcus Vinicius, a Roman military commander whose journey from power to redemption should have been a gripping transformation. Instead, viewers were met with a performance that many described as cold and uninspired. Taylor's delivery remained flat during key dramatic moments, and his romantic scenes felt awkward rather than heartfelt. Critics of the time praised the film's stunning sets and large-scale battle sequences, but were quick to point out how Taylor's acting dragged down the narrative. The chemistry between Taylor and his co-stars appeared forced, and his emotionless tone often clashed with the intense themes of faith, love, and sacrifice woven throughout the story. Today, Quo Vadis is still admired for its visual achievements, but Taylor's portrayal is regularly cited as a weak point. Film historians often highlight it as an example of how miscasting or uninspired performances can hold back an otherwise grand production. For many fans, Taylor's lifeless performance stands as a reminder that even the most spectacular movie sets can't rescue a character who feels emotionally distant. A jungle tale undone by the wrong casting. Some roles demand a complete transformation, but when an actor's natural style clashes with the character, even the best intentions can fall flat. In this case, a beloved star of elegance and refinement was placed in a setting where her signature grace felt completely out of place. In Green Mansions, Audrey Hepburn portrayed Rima, a mysterious jungle-dwelling girl described as ethereal and deeply connected to nature. Known for her polished sophistication and timeless poise, Hepburn struggled to embody the wild, untamed spirit the role required. Her delicate features and soft-spoken mannerisms clashed with the character's background, making key scenes feel disjointed and unconvincing. Critics and audiences were puzzled by the casting choice. Many pointed out that Hepburn's natural charm, perfect for glamorous urban tales, seemed at odds with the raw, earthy world of the jungle setting. Emotional moments lacked authenticity, and interactions with other characters felt awkward rather than organic. Over the years, Green Mansions faded from public attention, but when revisited, it's often cited as a classic example of miscasting. Fans continue to celebrate Hepburn for her unforgettable roles in romantic comedies and dramas, while quietly acknowledging this jungle adventure as a rare misstep. The film stands as a reminder that even the most beloved stars can struggle when cast far beyond their natural strengths. A melodramatic turn that crossed the line. When a film leans into passion and drama, it can either captivate or overwhelm its audience. In this particular case, what was intended to be a gripping romantic epic turned into a performance so exaggerated that it left the viewers more amused than moved. In Duel in the Sun, Jennifer Jones starred as Pearl Chavez, a young woman caught between two feuding brothers in the Old West. The film aimed for operatic levels of intensity, blending romance, betrayal, and explosive conflict. However, Jones's performance quickly crossed the line from emotional to over-the-top. Her wide-eyed expressions, dramatic gestures, and breathless line deliveries made many scenes feel unintentionally comedic. Critics at the time were divided. Some admired the film's bold approach, but many pointed out how Jones's portrayal lacked subtlety and nuance. What should have been a story of tragic passion often came across as forced melodrama, with Jones's character reduced to exaggerated outbursts rather than believable emotion. Over the decades, Duel in the Sun gained a reputation as a lust in the dust spectacle, visually impressive but dramatically unbalanced. Today, the film is frequently referenced in discussions about overacting, with clips circulating online, showcasing the most extreme moments. While Jones remained a respected actress, this particular performance stands as a cautionary tale of how excessive dramatics can turn a serious role into an unintentional parody. A veteran star's career ended in campy horror. Some careers end with a graceful exit, but for one legendary actress, the final chapter came in the form of a low-budget science fiction film that shocked her longtime fans. What was meant to be a dramatic role turned into an unintentionally comical farewell to a celebrated career. In Trog, Joan Crawford portrayed Dr. Brockton, a scientist who discovers and attempts to civilize a prehistoric creature. Far removed from her glamorous roles of the past, Crawford found herself acting opposite a man in a rubber suit, delivering lines about evolution and human nature in a story that quickly descended into campy absurdity. Her serious delivery and determined expressions stood in stark contrast to the film's clumsy special effects and simplistic plot. Critics panned the film upon release, noting how Crawford's dignified performance only emphasized the ridiculousness of the production. Scenes intended to be heartfelt or suspenseful became unintentionally humorous, making the entire project feel like a sad misstep rather than a triumphant finale. Today, Trog is often listed among the worst horror films ever made, and Crawford's involvement remains a point of fascination for classic movie fans. Her appearance in such a bizarre and poorly executed film serves as a cautionary tale of how even the most revered stars can end their careers on an unfortunate note. Despite the oddity of Trog, many still admire Crawford's professionalism, even in the most challenging and unlikely circumstances. A lavish epic let down by flat acting. Massive productions often promise unforgettable cinema, but even the grandest settings can't always hide a performance that fails to connect. In this case, a celebrated star known for beauty and charisma faced criticism for a portrayal that many felt lacked genuine emotion. In Cleopatra, Elizabeth Taylor took on the role of the famous Egyptian queen in what was, at the time, the most expensive film ever made. Surrounded by stunning costumes, elaborate sets, and a sweeping historical narrative, Taylor looked the part but struggled to bring emotional depth to the character. Her delivery was frequently described as distant, and her on-screen chemistry with co-stars felt uneven despite the off-screen attention it generated. Critics noted that the film's extravagant budget and high-profile production made Taylor's restrained performance even more noticeable. Scenes meant to showcase Cleopatra's passion and power came across as cold, with some reviewers calling the performance flat and disconnected from the story's dramatic highs and lows. Today, Cleopatra is remembered for both its spectacle and its struggles. While Taylor remains a Hollywood legend, her portrayal in this film is often cited as an example of how even iconic stars can falter when overwhelmed by production demands. The movie stands as a reminder that captivating visuals are no substitute for heartfelt acting. A stiff performance in a misguided epic. Some performances are remembered not for their brilliance, but for how awkwardly they handled sensitive roles. In this case, an acclaimed actor found himself at the center of a lavish production that modern audiences view very differently. In The Good Earth, Paul Mooney portrayed Wang Lung, a humble Chinese farmer. Despite the film's grand scale and serious themes, Mooney's performance struggled to feel authentic. His delivery often came across as stiff, and his expressions felt forced rather than natural. The heavy makeup used to alter his appearance only added to the disconnect, making emotional scenes seem uncomfortable instead of moving. At the time of release, the movie was praised for its visual scope, but even some contemporary critics questioned the casting decisions. As the years passed, the portrayal began to feel more outdated, especially as audiences became more aware of the importance of authentic representation. Mooney's restrained acting style and the cultural miscasting became frequent points of criticism. Today, The Good Earth is still discussed for its place in Hollywood history, but it serves as a reminder of how even well-intentioned films can stumble with awkward performances and casting choices. For many viewers, Mooney's portrayal highlights the limitations of relying on star power over cultural accuracy, and how these choices can overshadow otherwise important stories. A screen goddess stranded in the Wild West. Even the most glamorous stars can falter when placed in the wrong setting. This particular performance is a textbook example of how a strong screen presence can't always overcome poor casting choices. In Heller in Pink Tights, Sophia Loren was cast as Angela Rossini, a theatrical performer traveling through the American frontier. Known for her European sophistication and refined elegance, Loren seemed completely out of place in the dusty Western setting. Her polished demeanor and high-fashion appearance clashed with the rugged landscape and rough-edged characters surrounding her. Critics and audiences alike noted how Loren's portrayal lacked the natural grit and spontaneity that Western roles often demand. Dialogue that should have sounded sharp and lively came across as overly rehearsed, and her screen presence, so magnetic in romantic dramas, felt oddly detached from the movie's adventurous tone. Today, Heller in Pink Tights is remembered as a curious misfire in Loren's otherwise celebrated career. While the costumes and color cinematography earned some praise, Loren's performance is frequently pointed out as an example of mismatched casting. It serves as a reminder that even Hollywood icons can struggle to adapt to roles that stray too far from their strengths. A Broadway star miscast in a youthful role. Even the most talented performers can struggle when placed in roles that don't suit their stage of life or signature style. This particular performance became a famous example of how miscasting can create a lasting disconnect with audiences. In Hello, Dolly, Barbra Streisand took on the role of Dolly Levi, a lively matchmaker known for her wit and wisdom. Despite Streisand's celebrated vocal abilities and Broadway success, many viewers were surprised by the age gap between the character's intended maturity and Streisand's youthful appearance. The character was traditionally portrayed by older actresses, adding a sense of worldly experience to Dolly's personality, but Streisand's portrayal lacked that sense of seasoned charm. Critics noted the mismatch immediately. While her musical numbers were undeniably powerful, dramatic scenes felt uneven, with moments that were meant to be warm and knowing instead coming off as overly polished or detached. The film's opulent production could not disguise the feeling that Streisand, though enormously gifted, wasn't the right fit for the role. Over time, Hello, Dolly became appreciated for its lavish set pieces and memorable songs, but Streisand's casting remained a point of debate. Many fans and film historians see it as a missed opportunity, where great talent was applied to a part that didn't allow it to shine in the most natural way. The movie serves as a reminder that matching the right actor to the right role is often just as important as skill alone. A Bronx accent in medieval England. Some performances stand out not because of their brilliance, but because of how glaringly out of place they feel within their setting. In this case, a rising Hollywood star delivered a performance that unintentionally became the source of decades of amusement. In The Black Shield of Falworth, Tony Curtis portrayed Miles Falworth, a young squire aspiring to knighthood in medieval England. The film had all the hallmarks of a grand historical adventure: elaborate costumes, castle backdrops, and sword fights. Yet, Curtis's unmistakable Bronx accent clashed with the world the movie tried to create. His now famous line, "Yonder lies the castle of my father," delivered in his natural New York inflection, has become legendary for all the wrong reasons. Audiences at the time were charmed by Curtis's good looks and energy, but critics couldn't ignore the jarring mismatch. While the movie was intended as a sweeping medieval tale, Curtis's modern urban delivery pulled viewers out of the story, making dramatic scenes unintentionally humorous. Today, The Black Shield of Falworth is remembered more for Curtis's accent than for its plot. The "yonder" line is often referenced in pop culture as a classic example of miscasting. Despite Curtis's later success in more suitable roles, this performance serves as a reminder that no amount of charisma can overcome a setting where the actor feels completely out of place. A Hollywood great lost in bizarre behavior. Some acting missteps are surprising, but when they come from a performer once hailed as one of the greatest talents in cinema, they become legendary for all the wrong reasons. This particular role has been remembered not just for poor acting, but for the strange antics that overshadowed the entire production. In The Island of Dr. Moreau, Marlon Brando played the eccentric Dr. Moreau, a scientist living in isolation, while conducting disturbing experiments. Brando, who once redefined screen acting with naturalism and depth, shocked both audiences and crew members with a performance that veered into absurdity. His decision to wear strange costumes, including an all-white outfit paired with a bizarre headpiece, became more famous than his actual lines. On set, Brando's behavior reportedly baffled everyone involved. He improvised odd mannerisms, insisted on peculiar scenes, and delivered his lines in a way that felt detached from the movie's intended tone. Cast and crew interviews revealed how his unpredictable actions created chaos during filming, leading to production delays and reshoots. Today, The Island of Dr. Moreau is infamous as one of the most troubled productions in Hollywood history, and Brando's behavior is often highlighted as a key reason for its failure. While his legacy remains tied to many brilliant performances, this role stands as a reminder that even cinema legends are capable of bewildering choices that leave audiences more confused than captivated. A prehistoric spectacle without substance. Sometimes a performance becomes iconic for its imagery rather than any depth of character. In this case, one of Hollywood's most famous beauty icons starred in a film remembered more for its costumes than its storytelling or acting. In 1,000,000 years BC, Raquel Welch portrayed Loana, a cave woman in a prehistoric fantasy world filled with dramatic landscapes and stop-motion dinosaurs. While the film was praised for its impressive visual effects and stunning promotional posters, Welch's role offered her little chance to showcase acting talent. With minimal dialogue and a storyline driven by survival scenes and physical action, her performance was largely limited to posing, running, and reacting to imaginary creatures. Audiences at the time flocked to theaters, captivated by Welch's striking appearance, especially her now famous fur bikini. However, critics quickly pointed out the lack of character development or emotional engagement. The film's reliance on visual appeal over storytelling left many considering it more of a spectacle than a genuine cinematic achievement. Today, 1,000,000 years BC is most often remembered for its posters and promotional images rather than the film itself. Welch's role has become symbolic of an era where actresses were frequently cast for appearance rather than performance. While the movie remains a cult classic for its visuals, it also serves as a reminder of how sometimes on-screen beauty overshadows meaningful acting. A fearsome Viking with a Brooklyn accent. Grand historical adventures promise thrilling action and larger-than-life characters, but when modern mannerisms clash with ancient settings, the result can be unintentionally amusing. This particular performance is a textbook example of miscasting in a genre that demands timeless authenticity. In The Vikings, Kirk Douglas played Einar, a ferocious Norse warrior with an appetite for conquest and revenge. The film delivered stunning visuals, epic battle scenes, and sweeping cinematography. However, Douglas's unmistakable American accent and fast-talking style felt completely at odds with the gritty Viking world. Instead of fierce Nordic bravado, audiences were treated to sharp, modern dialogue that sounded like it belonged in 1950s New York, not medieval Scandinavia. Critics at the time enjoyed the film's spectacle, but couldn't ignore the mismatch in tone. Douglas's performance, filled with smirks and casual American slang, diluted the film's historical atmosphere. Emotional moments lost their impact, and serious confrontations often came across as unintentionally comedic. Today, The Vikings is celebrated as a fun adventure film, but regularly cited in discussions about Hollywood's habit of prioritizing star power over authentic performances. Douglas's portrayal stands as a reminder that even the biggest names can sometimes feel completely out of place when casting ignores cultural context. As you've seen, even the biggest Hollywood icons weren't immune to roles that missed the mark, from awkward accents to wooden performances. These moments remind us that no matter how legendary an actor might be, not every film becomes a timeless classic. These missteps, though sometimes cringeworthy, are part of what makes cinema history so endlessly fascinating, proof that even the greatest stars can have their off days. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Hollywood's most infamous acting disasters, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more fascinating movie history content. And we want to hear from you. Which performance on this list shocked you the most? Or is there a terrible acting moment we missed? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.